Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday, October the 22nd. Good to have you guys in for another episode of the Primetime program. There is a lot of bad associated with the Tennessee Titans, and it does not expect to get better from a win-loss standpoint in 2025. I'm not going to, well, I probably could, and I'd probably be pretty comfortable with it. Declaring the season lost is a waste of time. Now, their football season has also been a bit of a waste of time. Hell, the last three have felt like a waste of time. But if we are going to talk about things that do matter, and there's precious few things that do matter with this football team at this point, we have to have the discussion about progress for Cam Ward. So we are going to take a look at things that changed schematically for the Titans in Brian Callahan's tenure to at least one game worth of sample size for Mike McCoy. It is arguably the best performance from start to finish that Cameron Ward has had playing quarterback for this franchise. It is not good enough. He still made turnovers that lost them the game. 2 turnovers, as a matter of fact. Anthony Molly says, can you believe there are 11 weeks left? No. There's only 10 weeks left. Because that 11th week, that week 10, I'm going to Miami. There's only 10 games left of this shit before we can, do it all over again, essentially. But don't you expect me to work on that bye week. I will be on South Beach. I will be at the Ritz-Carlton on South Beach. You will not hear from me for that entire week because God knows if you all need a break, we need a break too. I am going to make Robert and Lucas work that week because I'm going to go away.
You said I was going with you. You said we were going to get a cabana for 2.
I said I was going to get a cabana for 2.
Who else would go with you? Who else would you want than this body? Who else could you want in Miami, dude?
You know what? Arguably, you've got the best cleavage I've ever seen. So get off my screen. You're not going to South Beach with me. But I am. Listen. Trust me. Me and Kaharski, we're talking about this today. Walking out of the facility, they have ruined the fun part for us, which is the coverage of the team, which is telling the story of a football team. Their story doesn't matter because they're not going anywhere. And most of these people are going to be fired or cut or released or whatever after the fact. And even the ones who are planning to be here are either hurt or miserable. So it really not the woe is me, poor sports reporter and talk show host. But it sucks for everybody. It sucks for you. It sucks for them. It sucks for us. We understand this. But if there is any hope to be had, that hope is in a young quarterback who's trying to find his footing. Now, he's still miles away from that. But there are things that they did on Sunday to help him look like the best version of him that we have seen thus far. Patrick says, it's okay, Buck. You're still getting paid for this crap. Yes, that is absolutely so. What else is going to pay for my luxurious trip to the South Beach Ritz-Carlton here in 2 weeks? God, I can't wait. Except the money that I'm making off shitty football. So, it's like what's the word or what's the turn of phrase where you talk about the cost benefit analysis? Yes, the football does suck. Yes, I'm paying a lot of money to talk about sucky football. These things are something that I will cope with in real time. Now, if I was you all, I would pick something else to do on my Sundays. But unfortunately for you all, and fortunately for me, you're sick in the head, which is why you love this football team and why you still watch crap like this on a regular basis. Equal Opportunity Smoke says, do you hate your job, Buck? No, I love my job. I love my job. I hate watching them play football. They are terrible at it. At this point in time, I don't hate. People sometimes will accuse me because I'm very tough on the Titans. Obviously, they deserve it. People will accuse me of hating the Titans. I don't hate the Titans. I hate the way that they're run. I hate that the owner appears to be gutless, and I hate the quality of football that they play. But on the whole, I love doing the radio show. I love doing primetime. I wouldn't tell Lucas and Bert this, but I love working with Lucas and Bert. I love living in Nashville. I love all of these things. But I think that they, as an organization, are really bad at this. And I think they deserve all of the criticism that they get. I don't think that there is any excuse for how poorly run that organization is. And I think that, and I've told you guys this many times, again, it's not my place to speak on your behalf because I'm not a fan of your football team and it is your football team. So I'm not going to fansplain to you, but I do know damn sure you deserve better because nobody should have to suffer as much as Titans fans have had. Cole Claxton says, are you at least excited about what the rookies are doing? Yeah, I enjoy Chimere DK. I think he's got a positive progression. We'll hope that he can, if you're a Titans fan, you'll hope that he can maintain that. I'm curious about Cam Ward succeeding at the NFL level. And listen, when I tweeted out, sorry, somebody's calling me right now in the middle of the show. That's not something I
answer it.
Want me to answer it? Okay. Ben, I'm in the middle of doing a YouTube show. I'm actually on the YouTube show, but they dared me to answer it on air. So I'll call you back later. We should do that more often. It would have been way funnier if we did it on Monday night in the middle of that Tyler Lockett show when Titans executives were calling me because they were scared, not scared, but wanted to make sure that I had as much detail as humanly possible before I rip their ass for scaring a good player off for how bad they've been. And Tyler Lockett, not a good player, a good soldier, rather. Tyler Lockett obviously wasn't a good player here during his time. But I think that there is a couple of different things here that you have to look forward to, okay? I'm not totally in on Cam Ward. I'm by no means out on Cam Ward. When I tweeted on Sunday in the middle of the football game that not in the middle of the football game, after he had fumbled it and lost it and the defense had recovered it for a touchdown and he'd done it for back-to-back weeks, I tweeted, are y'all ready for a Cam Ward conversation or not? And like I talked about on the radio show after the fact, Titans fans are very, very sensitive about it because the one thing that they can latch on to is Cam Ward. The one thing that they can believe in is Cam Ward. The one thing that you want to believe in, right? The one thing that you want to assign value to or your hope to, because it's really the only thing you have in yet another lost season. I completely understand the oversensitivity, but there is in no way, shape, or form a world in which Cam Ward has played well yet, although you have seen glimpses of it, right? But I haven't seen him play well consistently through a 4 quarters of an NFL football game to date. And that is a concern, right? It's 7 games. It's not a small sample size of that, even though it's very, very early in his career. Absolutely. It's very, very early in his career. Bobby Marquez says, what has happened to Khalil Mullings? We need him to be in there for his physical runs to wear down a defense. Yeah, he's on injured reserve. So I am looking at a couple of different things on the Titans, and I know there's a piece up at AtoZSports.com right now about the 10 players, including Cam Ward, that the organization should factor into the future, and that Titans fans can be excited about moving forward. And I probably push back on the idea that there's 10, and I don't know that a new coach isn't going to come in here and say, open quarterback competition, Cam Ward's not my guy. And I don't know that you should be married to Cam Ward that way, even though we understand that he was drafted here as the number 1 overall pick and that requires time and patience. There's a lot of different elements of this that require nuance and context. Now, are we going to have all of those conversations effectively? Are people going to be reasonable about it the whole way through? Hell, am I going to be reasonable about it the whole way through? No, I'm going to overreact in some circumstances just the same way that you guys overreact. And then, you hope that with time and with more context and with more information, you rein some of that overreaction or some of that veering to extremes in a little bit, and you start to drill down on the stuff that matters here. So let's talk about Cam Ward first and foremost. What is Cam Ward through 7 games of his professional football career? Again, a baby sample size. He's just gotten here, but what do we know about Cam Ward through 7 games? Well, we know that he's tough, right? That's the thing that's going to, I think going to be embedded in Cam Ward's soul until the rest of time, until the end of time, unless you break him, which I don't think likely, even as bad as it is here, but I think that this guy is hardwired in a particular kind of way that would allow him to at least gut through some of this stuff. Cam Ward is not inaccurate as a quarterback, but he is mechanically poor as a quarterback. His footwork and the marriage of his feet and his eyes are not in sync. They have to work on his mechanics as a player because right now he is very, very raw. Ideally, do you want a number 1 overall draft pick that is very, very raw? No, but he's the best you got, and he was the guy for you with the number 1 overall pick. You're not going to be able to fix that in the season. That's something that's going to require more work in the offseason when he has time to work on the mechanics, the fundamentals, and all these different things. They spend a ton of time doing it in the offseason. It's not going to be fixable all in one fell swoop. He may never fix it. We don't know that yet, right? But right now he is mechanically poor, and that needs to improve. If that improves, his accuracy will improve as a result. His consistency will improve as a result. We talked about making the mastering the mundane, right? Mastering the boring stuff. Well, that's the boring shit. Instead of the scramble drill, 38-yard touchdown. That wasn't a scramble drill. It was a good play within the context of the offense, the 38-yard touchdown pass to Chimere DK. But like some of this, backyard football stuff that he does, that's not mechanically sound. That's not within the scope of the offense. That's just a playmaker making a play. And that's great, but it's not sustainable at the NFL level. So we know that he's got raw mechanics, and that is a problem for him right now. We know that he has had many turnovers, but I wouldn't say that he's outright a liability. Like Levis was an extreme example. Cam Ward does turn the ball over. He has 10 individual turnovers. That's a lot through 7 games. He has lost every fumble that he has put on the ground. He has fumbled 5 times. They have not recovered a single one of those fumbles. He has back-to-back games now where the ball just comes out of his hand. That's unacceptable. He knows that. You know that. I know that. But I wouldn't say that he overwhelmingly puts the ball in harm's way. He does have 5 interceptions this year. There are some tip drills. The tip drill interception that he had in this most recent game against the Patriots, it was a bad pass, objectively a bad pass. People who are trying to just blame it on the tip are not paying close enough attention or are just trying to ignore some of that because they want to make excuses for Cam Ward, and that's fine. Again, I understand the oversensitivity, but it is our job to kind of work our way through some of that and determine what's real and what's not. He doesn't have enough help around him. We know all of these things about Cam Ward, and his completion percentage is down. His passing yardage is pedestrian through 7 games, and his yards per attempt is pretty piss poor. Some of that is on him. A lot of that is on him. A lot more of it is on the organization and the situation that he was dropped into. Jeff Bub Daily on Facebook Live, where you can share the show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, says, don't you think he's just trying to do too much? In some cases, sure. In some cases, for sure. But I do think that there's just objectively bad quarterback play in there too, and that's fine. That's expected as a rookie. Curtis says, the route he was running was supposed to sit. No, I don't know that. He didn't know that. The receiver didn't know that. They are not effective as an offense. They are not yet efficient as an offense. Again, part of that is on Cam. Part of that is the fact that he's surrounded by pedestrian and new pass catchers who are learning just as he is learning. Somebody made a mistake there. We have talked to Cam Ward about it. We have talked to the offensive coaching staff about it. Miscommunications are on the quarterback too. It is the quarterback's job to make sure that everything is clearly communicated. Yes, wide receivers and pass catchers can make bad decisions or run the wrong route or do something that would jeopardize it, but it is ultimately your responsibility as the quarterback to make sure that that is a finely or a well-oiled machine. I do not know that. You do not know that. The only 2 people that know that are Cam Ward and Alec Iamaner, or Cam Ward and Chigakonkwo. And, unlike Carson Beck, they're not publicly taking each other out, which is good at this point in time. They are, to an extent, staying together, the young guys, are staying together because they're trying to battle their way out of this thing, to their credit. I like the fight from the rookies. I think that's an admirable quality. It is not enough to win football games right now when we all understand this. So there's bad quarterback play. There's things that are outside of his control. There are things that are inside of his control. And there's the circumstance that he's been dropped into. Also, their defense sucks. Like, their defense is not very good. It's going to be without Jeff Simmons. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's better or worse without L'Jarius Sneed. All I know is L'Jarius Sneed's not going to play, and they were bad with him. They'll probably be bad without him. God knows they'll be bad without Jeffrey Simmons, and that isn't official yet for Sunday, but it would be a shock if Jeff Simmons had a severe enough hamstring injury to rule him out of a game in the first quarter, of which he was not able to return, and that he would just immediately return on the road against Indianapolis. Oops, sorry about that. Bang my water bottle off the desk. I would be surprised if Jeff Simmons plays against the Colts. We have the rest of the practice week to figure those things out. So again, things that are controllable by Cam Ward, things that are not controllable by Cam Ward. Now, the circumstance around him, where the coach has been fired, and the coach, before he was fired, was stripped of offensive play calling responsibilities. You have a situation where Mike McCoy is now the head coach. Bo Hardegree is still the play caller, but they are trying to figure some things out. And one thing that it looked like they figured out was how to get the ball, or really how to get Cam Ward in a rhythm early on in that game before shit fell apart and he fumbled away a touchdown for the opposition, and the defense lost Jeff Simmons and L'Jarius Sneed. And before shit went sideways, they looked for a quarter like a professional football team. And it's as close to a professional football team as they've looked all year long. So the question for you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch: what is the most encouraging part of Cam Ward's performance on Sunday? Cam Ward's performance in Week 7 against the New England Patriots. What was the most encouraging part to you? We can talk about it together in the comment section as you like. You guys give me your answer. I will give you mine, and you'll hear from Greg Cosell, as a matter of fact, right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Okay, so what was the most encouraging part of Cam Ward's performance on Sunday? Let's see. Smoke says completion percentage. It was a career-high completion percentage. Completion percentage is a flawed stat to judge things by, but when you go back and look at some of the passes that Cam Ward was completing, you saw the degree of difficulty on a lot of it. You saw the arm talent that makes Cam Ward worthy of the number 1 overall draft pick. Completion percentage is not the end-all be-all because he was still inaccurate and inconsistent with his mechanics, which caused him to be inaccurate on some of these plays, but it is at least a career high. And early on, he was giving them chances to succeed. And then, the defense failed him, and then he failed the rest of the team with the way that he fumbled at the end. John Vargas said that he is capable of playing good. Grammatically, that would be capable of playing well, but that's all fun. That's all well and good. So let's say that he's capable of playing well. Well, he's capable of putting together a quarter. He did it in Arizona. He did it against the Patriots. But that's 2 quarters of good football, quality football, we'll say, that he's put together in 7 total games. That obviously is not acceptable. So he, of course, is capable of playing well in spurts, but it's got to be a more complete performance. He's got to learn how to finish games. He's got to learn how to elevate himself beyond just expecting his situation to elevate for him. He's obviously got some deficiencies as a player himself. He also has clear and obvious glaring deficiencies on the roster. The thing that was most encouraging to me is that the offense set him up, at least early, for more success than it was in previous weeks. And I'm not qualified to break down X's and O's that way, but lucky for you, I have somebody who is, which is Greg Cosell, who joined us today on the radio show.
It's funny. I actually thought that despite the score, I thought this was the best that Ward has looked over the course of a full game. And I thought, quite frankly, that the Titans' route concepts and combinations at times helped him. They gave Ward more defined reads and throws so he could play with better anticipation and timing. you'll notice, I'm sure, as you did, Buck, that the ball seemed to come out a lot quicker throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
And that has to be the starting point. You don't want him sitting in the pocket because he does have a tendency to do that if he feels that it's not clean. And I thought, I mean, obviously on that possession where they scored, I'm trying to think, was it they had a field goal and then a touchdown, correct?
Field goal, yes. And then the 38-yarder to DK. Right,
but the play right before the 38-yarder to DK, if I'm not mistaken, was an 18-yarder to DK, right? And I think that, that was the kind of throw where you say one of those throws where you believe he can be a quality NFL quarterback. They put him under center. It was play action. It was a 3-level combination to the field. So its read was just to one side of the field. It happened to be cover 2. He made a great throw to DK. And then obviously the touchdown was shotgun play action. It was kind of a misdirection throw as well because DK ran the deep over opposite the play action, and he ran a great route, by the way. And I thought Helm, and this may have been overlooked, Helm made an excellent block on a defensive end. White weighs about, and he was out in space, so he didn't have help. And White weighs about 290 pounds. But then you look on the first possession on the third down play where he misses Manor, and that's a pitch and catch throw. That's a layup. Those are throws you got to make. So you see, but overall, I thought this game was better. And not just because the numbers were better in terms of completion percentage, they were better for a reason. They weren't just better because at the end of the game, it just happened to be better. They were better for a reason. And I thought overall there was more of a sense of, hey, drop back, get the ball out, get the ball to someone. It doesn't have to be 30 yards down the field. Make throws.
Greg Cosell of NFL Films is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're doing a live episode of The Install today because Greg has been kind enough to adjust to our schedule.
Greg, can you give us some more context on how that kind of, that is opposite of what was happening before? Like, compared to what the Titans were doing before, what were you seeing with Cam and what he did or didn't have in terms of the check down stuff, the quick game stuff that he utilized more of?
Well, look, guys, you know me well enough to know that no matter what team I'm looking at, obviously I had a really good relationship with the staff there, and Brian Callahan's gone. I don't ever rip coaches. I just don't do that because I know how hard they work. I know, people can say guys are bad coaches, good coaches. I've been around too long. I've been fortunate not only to be with the Titans, but other teams through my career. So I don't rip coaches. But I will say this, just all I do is look at the tape. And I will say that I thought there were many more examples, Lucas, in this game where the route concept, I'll give you an example, by the way, okay? The first play of the third possession probably seemed like a meaningless play. It was a completion to DK for 9 yards. Maybe you don't even remember it because it didn't seem like a big deal. It was the first play of the third possession. But it was a 3-man route concept that basically presented DK on his curl route as a clean, defined throw. So Ward could hit his back foot, and actually there was pressure too, big time pressure. But because it was so clean, he could hit his back foot and deliver the football. To me, and I've been doing this a long time, I've been around a lot of coaches who were smarter than I am. That's what you're trying to do with a young quarterback. You're trying to make it as clean and defined as possible so that he doesn't get stuck in the pocket. And Ward, by very nature, even when he was in college, and I loved Ward coming out, and I'm certainly not going to backtrack on that. I loved Ward coming out. Ward does have a tendency, though, to sort of get stuck in the pocket and wait. Okay, sometimes it's good. More times in the NFL, it's not. In college, it can be great. So you want to create route concepts and combinations where you're moving defenders, particularly against zone, because there's always going to be stress points, conflict areas, gray areas. You want to do that against zone where he can hit that back foot and know, hey, I've got this throw and I can turn it loose. And I thought there was more of that in this game.
Did you feel like there was also a discernible difference in terms of the tempo? Or maybe is that a product of getting those quick passes out, those easy completions that even if it's less distance to get on the football, that maybe it comes off as though they were trying to go quicker?
Well, Lucas, that's a great point because if you're gaining yards, you're essentially staying on schedule. Now, it doesn't have to be a 20-yard gain. I mean, like that first down play I just mentioned was 9 yards. Now you're 2nd and 1. Now you feel that the playbook's open. You can do whatever you want. There's a feeling that now you're playing football and you're moving with some quickness and tempo. So you don't have to be in no huddle. You don't have to do any of that. But if you can just get positive yards, and that's even the first play of the game when it was boot action, he hit home for 11 yards. Plays like that, that's basically a no-read throw or a one-read throw if you want to talk about it that way. He's throwing the ball to Helm. Okay. And you get 11 yards. And now all of a sudden you feel good as a quarterback. Hey, just complete a ball. We got a first down. It was an easy throw that the three of us probably could have made, but you move on. And now you're you just get a sense, hey, now we're playing some football. Those are the things to me. And again, having many conversations over the years, these are the things you want to do with a young quarterback. You never want a young quarterback to be in a position where all of a sudden it's his third possession and he's 2 for 8, because then he feels like he can't complete a ball. And then the whole game starts to squeeze in on him and close him down.
So that is a part of Greg Cosell's analysis of Cam Ward's best overall game that came against the New England Patriots. Again, it's a double-digit loss, and it was not a great performance from start to finish, but we are looking for signs of growth here for Cam Ward. It is the most important part of the season. It was always going to be the most important part of the season. Obviously, you wish that they had more success as far as wins and losses are concerned. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by the wonderful folks at Simon Says Nashville, where you go to dress better. It's the best place to get the best men's clothes in Middle Tennessee. I would argue anywhere. Simon Says Nashville is conveniently located in Wedgwood, Houston, just slightly south of downtown, and you will find a selection of items there that you will not find anywhere else. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. If you want to find the best place to be the best dressed version of yourself, SimonSaysNashville.com for more information. Also by True Math Fitness and the Gulch, TrueMathFitness.com. For your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMathFitness.com for more details today. I look forward to my Arm Farm Friday at True Math each and every Friday. So that is Cosell breaking it down. There is more good analysis. We also ask him about Drake May and Daniel Jones on that episode. Robert has scheduled that episode for tomorrow morning in your podcast feed. So you can check that out. It will also be available to you on YouTube after the fact. So there are some things there that Mike McCoy and by extension, Bo Hardigree and the rest of the coaching staff helped institute for Cam Ward in the middle of that game or at the start of that game. Now, obviously, when you're playing bad defense and L'Jarius Sneed and Quandre Diggs are giving up explosive plays to Kayshon Boutte, and you have a 17-13 margin that you're working against in the second half of that game, and immediately your defense gives up a touchdown on the opening possession, and it puts you in a situation where now you're down 24-13, and then all of a sudden you're pressing and Cam Ward fumbles and it's 31-13, and your offense does nothing for the rest of the second half. So again, this is not by any stretch of the imagination Cam Ward has arrived, but it is progress, or at least a starting point, a reasonable starting point for Cam Ward that they now must build off of in Indy. Now, again, nobody is going to pick them. They are more than a 2-touchdown underdog. I don't think that's got to be the biggest line in the NFL this year, 14.5 between any two opponents, the 6-1 Titans, or rather imagine the Titans 6-1. The 6-1 Colts versus the 1-6 Titans, 14.5 was the opening line. I can't imagine that there's been a bigger line between two teams this year. Robert points out it was previously 13.5. Was that also a Titans game? Were they an underdog by 13.5 points in a game? I imagine it was either them or the Jets. Robert says the Saints and someone else, but 13.5 was previously the biggest line, the biggest point differential according to Vegas, between two teams. So 14.5-point underdogs. Again, maybe the Titans cover that because they have been losing by double digits, but 14.5 in an NFL game is ridiculous. Nobody's going to pick the Titans to win that game, nor should they. But they are allowed to make progress in a number of different ways, and they cannot afford to squander the opportunity that they have to continue to build there. I am curious to see how they do it. It's going to be tough. I don't know that they can get stops without Jeffrey Simmons. Tavondre Sweat comes back and Jeff immediately gets out of the lineup with that hamstring injury. They're calling him week to week. I would be stunned if he came back. L'Jarius Sneed is going to miss an extended amount of time. Mike McCoy provides an injury update here in just a second. But on the whole, with Cam Ward, there is stuff to be encouraged by out of that performance. It is also fair to say, but he made plays that lost them, that directly contributed, if not put them over the top to losing that game. Both of those conversations are fair. Both of those conversations can be had around Cam Ward. All right, so the other part of this is Sneed and Jeff. What's the worst trade in the Titans era? The Jarvis Brownlee one looks pretty bad right now, especially given that you were relying upon Sneed. That was dumb. The Sneed one looks horrible. The A.J. Brown is going to be the worst in the Titans era. Trading A.J. Brown at the time to Philadelphia, even before you found out how bad Treylon Burks was going to end up being. That's the worst trade in the Titans era of football. The trading of a second-round pick for Julio Jones is also going to be up there on that list. But where does the L'Jarius Sneed trading him from the Chiefs to the Titans for a third-round pick, and then giving him a $72.5 million contract, $72.6 million contract, might be a little more, a little less. I can't remember the exact details. Either way, give him a fat new 4-year deal as soon as you acquired the 2-time Super Bowl champion. Where would you rank that trade in terms of the worst trades since 1999? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch is where you interact. While you do that, I will remind you that the Primetime program is presented to you by TDOT, the Tennessee Department of Transportation, that reminds you that nobody trashes Tennessee, whether it is organizing cleanups. Listen, I love that we have this partnership with Nobody Trashes Tennessee, because I'll tell you something. Now, you may think that this is, Robert may make fun of me for it. He may call me a liar for it. But one of the things, a legitimate hobby for me, is that I love picking up trash. I have one of these mechanical, like, claw devices that you buy. What are they called, Robert? You just mouthed it. A what?
A grabber.
A grabber. Fine.
I got a little grabber.
I have a grabber tool. I buy them in packs of 2. I love them because one of my favorite things to do is pop a gummy, patrol the neighborhood with a trash bag and my grabber tool and pick up trash in my neighborhood. I hate litter. You hate litter. TDOT hates litter, and Nobody Trashes Tennessee. You can find out more information on their website. You can learn more about volunteer opportunities to help keep our great state beautiful. You can also organize your own community cleanups. I'm honest to God, I'm probably going to do that during the off season, because I'm only one man with one trash bag and one grabber tool. And I certainly would love a neighborhood cleanup where I live, just outside of Germantown, in North Nashville. Nobody Trashes Tennessee. TDOT with more information on how you can help the community in that way. So what is, or how would you rank, where would you rank the L'Jarius Sneed trade as far as the worst trades made in Titans history? So A.J. Brown for sure the worst. In my time, in my 9 years, it's A.J., it's Sneed, it's Brownlee, and then it's Julio. Julio I got. Like, Julio was a catastrophe. Not a catastrophe even. Like, at least Julio made some semblance of plays. While he was here, he was just never healthy. His hamstrings were a disaster. John Vargas said, did you just say Papa Gummy? Hell yeah. What do you do in your free time? I am, at least in my 9 years, now obviously the Titans have been in Tennessee for more than 28 years at this point in time. So there are other trades that you can have. Major Key says he had that one catch. Was that in Seattle, or did that catch not count? That was the overtime game that Derek won Derrick Henry won on a walk-off touchdown. It was really, really cool. It was the first time that they had fans back in attendance at Lumen Field after the pandemic. Julio, I believe, had a catch that was ruled an incompletion, but should have absolutely been a catch. He had a few, to his credit, because he was still Julio Jones. It's just he had the hamstrings of a 33-year-old trying to be Julio Jones. That was difficult. Eric Davis says, don't forget Beasley. Beasley was a signing. You did not trade for Vic Beasley. So in terms of trades alone, in my 9 years, AJ's the worst, then L'Jarius Sneed, then trading Jarvis Brownlee, then the acquisition of Julio Jones. Because the Julio thing made sense. It just didn't work out. You people can dig extra dirt on John Robinson's grave about that, but it's really bad. But it ended up really bad. Sneed is a disaster. Sneed is going to miss an extended amount of time. Sneed, when he has played, he has been good in very, very rare occasions. Last year, obviously, he only played in 5 games. This year, he stands to miss. He has played in more than 5 games at this point in time, but he stands to miss a considerable amount of time because, again, he's dealing with a quad injury.
With where we currently are, with a couple injury updates for you guys, LJ will miss some time moving forward. Jeff will be week to week, and then you'll kind of get an injury report later today on a number of other people, like we've been doing and like we talked about our policy moving forward. And then obviously we made the roster move with Lockett. We parted ways. I can't thank him enough for who he was and what he did for his time he was here. He was a true pro, came in, worked every day, but we parted ways. And with all that being said, with regards to the roster and everything, it's a great opportunity for a number of other players. Like we've talked about, you guys have asked questions before, it's going to be the next man up mentality. And you look back as a coach and you look at players and you always talk to them about preparing and being ready. Very similar to what Mason did last week. We talked all a week long or all year long here about how you never know when your number's going to be called. Mason stepped into the game in a special teams role and played a little bit on offense. And that's exactly what we're looking for moving forward with everybody else. Regardless of what position you are, it's a unbelievable opportunity. And that's all you can ask for as a player. And with that, I'll open up to questions.
So next man up, that's Mike McCoy at his press conference today, updating people on the status of Sneed. He also said that Sneed, he wasn't going to disclose whether Sneed was an injured reserve candidate. The injury report today, by the way, is lengthy. They had a great many players who did not practice today. I can give you the full status of the injury report. DNP, Blake Hance, Johnny Hecker, Arden Key, James Lynch, Bryce Oliver, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Jeffrey Simmons, L'Jarius Sneed, Jihad Ward, and Kevin Zeitler. Now, Zeitler, Ward, Pollard were all for rest. Ridley, Simmons, hamstring. Arden is still dealing with a quad injury. L'Jarius Sneed is obviously out with a quad injury. And you've got a knee issue still for Bryce Oliver, a shoulder issue for James Lynch and Blake Hance. Johnny Hecker, dealing with illness, did not practice today. So a lengthy, and that's not the only players on the injury report. Limited were Sebastian Joseph Day and Xavier Woods, also on this injury report. For what it's worth, the Colts, Josh Downs, limited with a concussion. Ashton Doolin, full participant. Tyler Goodson, full participant. Samson Ebukam did not practice. Neither did Tyquan Lewis, Kenny Moore, and Braden Smith. So that is the Colts side of the injury report as well. The Sneed trade is horrendous. And the Titans roster, the cornerback depth is already depleted because they did the dumb thing of trading away Jarvis Brownlee to the Jets. Darrell Baker Jr. is a reserve corner who played decent snaps for you. Marcus Harris, McCreary, Samuel Womack, who has not been active for a game. He's been a practice squad guy. You've got Jalen Armour Davis as well. Kendall Brooks is a safety more than he is a corner. He's listed as a defensive back. But that is the status of the cornerback depth at this point in time. On the practice squad, they do not have a corner other than Womack. They have Alex Johnson. Okay, Alex Johnson is also on the practice squad. Womack, I'm sorry, is on the 53, but he has not yet been active for a game. He's been a healthy scratch each and every week. So Womack and Sam Webb, both listed as corners, who are currently on the Titans practice squad today. So they have no depth. They traded away the depth that they had, and Snead is not going to play for a considerable amount of time. It's bad news Bears. Bad news Bears all the way around on that situation. MB says, I hate all the comments in hindsight. If you don't comment when the trade happens, then who cares what fans have to say later? I do think that's reasonable. Like it's for example, I wanted the Titans to draft Cam Ward. I think when I made up my mind on that, it was March. So about a month before the draft, maybe a little more than a month before the draft. I was like, all right, they need a quarterback. Keep it simple, stupid. Take the quarterback. The day of the draft, it was reported that the Giants had a pretty good trade on hand. And I knew the Titans were going to take Cam Ward no matter what. And I didn't know what the Giants' offer was until Adam Schefter came on the television broadcast and reported what it was. At the time, I remember thinking, that seems like a trade that they should take, but whatever. I was on record with Cam Ward. I think my phrasing was Cam Ward or else or something like that, right? Now, that trade probably would have made more sense for them given that Cam Ward is up against it here and they don't have nearly enough to support him. And there's no guarantee that they're going to get it right around it. There was no guarantee that they were going to get it right with the trade assets that the Giants offered. But it is easy for me to say after the fact. And, it's an easy position, but I do feel this way more and more as we go through this, that, it probably would have made more sense to take the Giants trade because Cam Ward is in a bad spot. MB says, what was the exact offer? It was this year's first, next year's first, a third for sure, and then there were a couple of other day 3 picks that were never officially reported. I don't think we ever found out what beyond the third round pick. There were additional picks, but there was never information disclosed. I asked Mike Borgonzi about it, as a matter of fact, at the post-draft recap press conference, and Borgonzi never disclosed specifically what the offer was. But 2 firsts and a third, plus additional picks, plus the picks that they already had. Again, they would have been bad this year, right? But they're bad now with him. So I don't know if they take the trade and they draft Jackson Dart later and it ends up working out better for them the way that it has for the Giants. The Giants had more on their roster to begin with than the Titans did anyway. So it's a really tough thing to go back in retrospect and say, yeah, but if this, then that. I want Cam Ward to succeed. I want him to have success in his NFL career. I think that he is up against it with the idea that he's going to have success in his NFL career because he's being asked to do entirely too much. And we don't know that they're going to get it right in the future. In fact, I shouldn't have bias this way, but I don't know how you could spend this much time around an organization that is as bad at this as they are and have any level of confidence that they're going to get it right. Maybe that's unfair of me. I reserve the right to be proven wrong. The multiple first round picks and an additional day 2 pick plus additional day 3 picks. I don't know that you would have hit on all of those picks, but it would have given you a better opportunity to have a more well-rounded roster like the Giants do. Giants aren't perfect, but they've got more there, right? To drop a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback into. That's the kind of retrospect that MB is saying he hates. I must acknowledge that sometimes I do that too. So with all that being said, a little rising and falling, whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you interact. I don't have to read you any more partnership or any more ads tonight other than to tell you to like the video while you're here. Before we do bounce back, rising and falling, whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports. Stock down Vols fans. Vols fans are going through it. Not only did they choke against Alabama over the weekend in a game that was probably winnable, They lost Tony Vitello today. Now, I don't know that Vitello was going to win a World Series with the San Francisco Giants. All I know is Tony Vitello put ball baseball back on the map. And that is a circumstance that is going to be tough, because the question now becomes for Tennessee in the revenue sharing era, do you continue to pour resources? Tony Vitello was the highest paid college baseball coach in the sport, a national champion, deservedly so. Do you pour those resources back into baseball, or do you take some of those resources and now put them into other sports, mainly football? I think most Vols fans would probably say, yeah, I don't care about winning baseball games. Just give me a better football program if the money can buy it. No guarantee with that, of course, but it does maximize your opportunities to succeed that way. But the Vols losing to Alabama and losing Tony Vitello, that's a tough week all around. Jack Longley said PK's stock fell because he couldn't answer Cam's question today. Yeah, I saw that. I was at the press conference, obviously, and Cam finished. Once we had finished with questions, Cam looked over at Jared Puffer, who is one of the members of Titans PR, and said, okay, can I ask a question? And Puff said, yeah, of course you can ask a question. So he looks at us and said, it's not really a question. It was, I want you all to repeat this play call. I'm going to give you an easy one. I want you all to repeat this play call back to me. And he rattled off a play call, and of course, none of us got it right. And PK just kept saying no chance and taking a video while he did it. And I saw that people on the internet were mad at Cam Ward about that, like as if it was like to contextualize it as people saying that Cam Ward was complaining to us about how hard his job is, and look how hard it is to even get a play call off. You guys couldn't do this. Like that wasn't Cam Ward was having fun with us. He wasn't like saying, hey guys, my job's really hard. Back off a little bit. See if you can do this. And of course we can't. The only word in that play call, it wasn't a very long one, but it was probably 6 words. The only word in that play call that I can remember is Costco. Jen Costco. 2 words. I think there were 2 Jens in there and a Costco, but I couldn't possibly get it consecutively. And then we were just having fun at the end of the press conference. Thank God that he's willing to have some fun, because it would be very easy for anybody in his situation to be like Will Levis was last year, be 1-6 and be miserable. Now, Levis wasn't 1-6, but you understand my point. That's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate your participation. Thanks for hanging out here on the Primetime Show. Tomorrow, Nate Washington. Nate Washington, always good, always welcome. We'll look forward to him joining us at 12:20 Central Time tomorrow, and we'll look forward to you guys hanging out with us as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Install before the new episode drops. We had Greg live on the radio show today, but it will be in the Install specific podcast feed tomorrow and on YouTube for your consumption as well. I'll look forward to hanging out with you guys and Robert and Lucas and Nate and everybody else from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone.
I mean, if we keeping a buck right now, we ass. So we 0